Yes, started now.
Started, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think we can start now. You can give us some introduction and we can hand over to Sheetal.
So, hello everyone. This is Vinodini here, a member in SCGs in Chennai. It's privilege to have Sheetal Jain here, who is a practice lead in horizontal digital. So he'll take us through the main highlights of Sitecore Symposium 2019. Once again, on behalf of SUG Chennai, welcome Sheetal Jain to this webinar, extending my welcome to all the participants. So over to Sheetal. We are eager to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sitecore User Group Chennai, for having me on the show today. A basic housekeeping things. First and foremost, obviously, thank you to Kishore and Nizaruddin, who has been coordinating this user group. And secondly, to all of you guys, a very good evening to all of you. And today, I think the presentation is supposed to run for about 45 minutes. And what I'm trying to do here today is really, as most of the user group enthusiasts are developer oriented, but a few of us are also from a marketing perspective. So I have tailored my presentation on the both ends. So hopefully for both developers and marketers, you'll find the information. At the tail end, I will take some questions. So I have reserved about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So please do ask questions. And then I also will give my contact information. If you have further queries, then we can always reach through an email or in Twitter. So first and foremost, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Sheetal. I lead the Sitecore practice at Horizontal Digital. I've been working in Sitecore for about 12 years now, 11-ish. And I have been fortunate to be an MVP for the past 7 years as well. So been in the Sitecore community for a while and been grateful to all the Sitecore community for making it such a solid product. So let's really get into Sitecore Symposium 2019. So whenever you go to Symposium, every year there's a theme. And this year's theme was basically human connections in a digital world. So as and when the web application market, or especially the digital experience market, is evolving, I think most organizations are really looking for that human connections. In other words, as a customer, as brands evolve, I think the real impetus is to have a personalized connection with the brand. And really, if you look at an open statement like, okay, how can brands thrive in a world where everyone wants to feel like a preferred customer? And you can look into it from a different perspective. So one of the perspective is really you have to connect with your customers in a new and a lasting way, whether that could be personalization, whether that could be serving relevant content, whether that could be serving an experience which is just tailored to the customer. I think that is the theme and the centerpiece of this year's presentation. So really, I think what we saw in this year's symposium in Orlando was various presentation and strategy really trying to get us to deliver the best experience. So now you may ask, okay, I am a developer. What does this mean to me? So as a developer, you have to understand that every piece of work you do has to kind of tie down at the end to deliver the best experience to each customer. So it's an important statement when we say to each customer, because you are trying to deliver best experience, different experience to different customers, not one experience to all the customers. So it's kind of a thin line there, and obviously a lot goes into it. So I feel that is kind of very interesting. So now, in this 45 minutes, what I'm going to do is, me personally, I have taken out 10 takeaways which I really feel were really, really important to know. So first and foremost, what do you think is really, really interesting? So from a top 10 takeaways standpoint, the first takeaway which I really felt was really, really interesting was Sitecore Content Hub. Now, before going and explaining you about what are the new features of Content Hub, I think I really need to understand that why really do we need something like Content Hub? And most of you may have heard about it. Some of you may just know the word, but I think I'll go a little bit more in deeper. But end of the day, Content Hub is trying to solve your content crisis. Now, what is content crisis? The content crisis is, 97% of the people think that especially from a marketing, they say that content is their biggest concern. Like for example, you are developers, you design and develop websites, you design components, and you have a personalization enabled. Now, without relevant content, the personalization is of no use, right? So without personalization, without content, it really becomes very, very difficult. So for a lot of the people, I personally feel is the content is a problem. That's one thing. Secondly, the mechanism, whether it be governance of the content, maintenance of the content, or even getting a lot of back channel information into it is going to be a problem. So imagine in a world where there are so many systems and getting content from all of these systems gets harder. So I feel that Content Hub is really a tool or a hub which is really trying to solve the content crisis. So we'll talk a little bit more about what is Content Hub. So in this picture, really we are trying to explain Content Hub. So let's say that, I am breaking down this image into 3 different parts. First and foremost is, let's talk about the left hand side. The left hand side is basically a process in an organization to aggregate the information. Now the information could come from one or more different type of sources. So it could come from the company itself, it could come from an ERP system, it could come from a product learning management tool or a contract or even a vendor. But the whole idea here is Content Hub is the centerpiece which will have the ability to connect to various information sources and host the content in this Content Hub. Now I get this question a lot. Okay, so isn't Sitecore Experience Platform a CMS as well, and it has the ability to store content? So why do we really need Content Hub in this place? So when we talk about Content Hub, there's one thing I want to make sure that we understand, that Content Hub is a standalone product, which means that you really don't need Sitecore Experience Platform for Content Hub. They are 2 different products in itself. Experience Platform is really empowering agencies or empowering customers to just serve relevant content. But Content Hub is really as a centerpiece which is hoping to solve the content crisis. Now I'll tell you a very good example. When we talk about Content Hub, a lot of people say, oh, it's a DAM capability. DAM stands for Digital Asset Management. Hey, I can store my images, I can version them, I can have copyrights, and I can do a lot more like edit images, crop them, deep zoom them, and things like that. So a DAM is a solution which is hosted on top of Content Hub. It has the ability to connect to CMS. On the right side, that's where you see that. Right side, when you say publish and analyze, is the medium where you can take each and every channel and publish your content. So on the right topmost, you will see something called CMS. CMS in this case could be Experience Platform, it could be any other CMS, but the ability of Content Hub to publish content is going to be very critical. So when we really talk about Content Hub, there are a lot of different elements into it. It is a very, very huge product. My recommendation is, from a Sitecore practice standpoint, Content Hub is going to evolve very fast and very quick. So if you are a developer or a marketer, I think embracing Content Hub is going to be a very, very important key takeaway for 2020. So from a planning perspective, I would stress that Content Hub is going to gain momentum and importance. So if you are a developer or a marketer, my recommendation is this should be on top of your list to learn for the next year. So really, Content Hub has a lot of components. Like right now in this screen, you can see Content Hub is made up of 5 different components. Let's talk about the 2 components which are like ready in the market and they're really, really good. The first one is DAM, which is Digital Asset Management. The Digital Asset Management is simple. What it does is it helps organization to manage their entire digital assets in one system. So basically what it does is it does a lot of things. It does auto tagging, it introduces machine learning to organize your images, it can connect to your CMS, obviously using a connector to get all of those images into your Sitecore Media Library. So just imagine that if you're opening Sitecore Media Library and say, I want to select an image, you click the browse button, it opens up a Content Hub window with the images from Content Hub. So it's a real-time sync process. So it's an excellent digital asset management capability out of the box. So that's what DAM is. Again, I want to be clear. Sitecore DAM is agnostic of Sitecore Experience Platform, which means that Sitecore DAM can connect to any other third-party tool. So the intent of Sitecore Content Hub is a stand-alone product which cohesively can live with a lot of different things. So I don't want it to be confused that, oh, it is Sitecore Content Hub, which means that it only works with Sitecore. That's not true. It can work with any other systems as well. Next I want to talk about is, I'll skip the MRM part, but let's talk about content marketing platform. This can get easily confusing quickly because a content marketing platform is a tool in Content Hub which helps you to streamline the content creation process. This is where a lot of people get confused that, okay, Sitecore CMS also has a content editor, I can create content there. But really, content marketing platform is a little bit more broadened in approach, where I think there are state-of-the-art governing practices, really very, very fascinating tools. And see, the idea of the content marketing platform is a place to aggregate all the content and then to send it to Sitecore for publishing. So just imagine that if Sitecore Content Hub was connected to Sitecore, the CMP, which is the content marketing platform, will push content, the DAM will push images, which means that both content, which could be CMP could have rich text, it could have plain text, it could have any other data, and Sitecore DAM together are going to be important for both of your text or content plus image. So that's how these both connect to Sitecore to get you the data into Sitecore. And again, content marketing platform is also really good about transferring mass amount of data. So let's talk about, really you're in an e-commerce world, you're running an e-commerce application. Now that's when something called PCM comes into play. The product content management is almost similar to CMP, but the product content management has much more richer capabilities. In other words, it can design product hierarchies from categories, subcategories, and details. It has the ability to take the content data, millions and millions of items, and put it into Sitecore Commerce. So PCM is another tool or component of Content Hub which really focuses on product related content. So now imagine if you are an e-commerce brand, you have your asset management, you have your content marketing platform, and you have your product content management. This is all you would need to connect all of your internal system and get that into Sitecore, right? This is Content Hub components really, really important for a Sitecore Commerce site? No. You can go the usual way. You can edit the content. You can use Sitecore Commerce and do all of that stuff in standalone commerce product. This allows you to aggregate and provide richer functionalities and does a lot of things out of the box. So my recommendation is, whenever you are trying to evolve or look for a product, I think this should be on your recommendation list, at least knowing what are these capabilities offered. Now there are two other lesser known pieces, which is MRM and Web to Print. If you guys are aware of Print Experience Manager in the past, I think Sitecore W2P is going to be a product which is going to be similar to Print Experience Manager. What the Web to Print does is it takes the content which is in your Content Hub and then creates a collateral for publishing or for paper copies. I think this is a really interesting capability because it is based on the content which is already there. And then the marketing resource management is really helping teams to execute campaigns across channels, markets, and brands. So overall in this, what I would say is, as a developer, you just need to know what is doing what. So you have a DAM for digital asset management, you have MRM for campaign management, CMP, which is content marketing platform, is really for creating of content, PCM is product content, and then W2P is web to print. So those are the components. So we went to Symposium knowing this, a lot of might know this. So basically what's new? So in Sitecore Content Hub 3.3, which is assumed to be released by December, and along with, I would imagine, Sitecore 9.3, but really the famous capabilities are the digital asset management is now, all of them, like the DAM, CMP, and MRM, are unified into SaaS-based platform, which means that when I say it's unified, they all merge with each other in some form or fashion into one big SaaS-based platform. Now, I want you to stress on this whole SaaS-based platform, which means that as a developer, you don't have to install Content Hub physically. It's a SaaS-based offering, which means that everything is in the cloud. All you would need is a subscription and a username and password, and then you'll get a tenant. So that's a very interesting thing. With this new release, Sitecore Digital Asset Management now has SXA support, which means that along with Experience Platform 9.0 and up, you can also have SXA on this for Sitecore DAM to work. Sitecore Digital Asset Management now has direct connector to Marketing Cloud and Sales Cloud of Salesforce, which is again important move where organizations who are using Sitecore and Salesforce, now Content Hub can host their content and now can sync directly with both Salesforce and Sitecore. As you can see, there are leading third-party systems also supported like Drupal and Adobe InDesign for the Sitecore Digital Asset Management capability. So I think the 3.3 version really brings all of these things under one umbrella. We also have some enhanced reporting tools, which really helps us to understand the usage of the Sitecore Experience platform from Content Hub. For example, reporting on personalization, reporting on images, reporting on content is available. So really, when you are talking about MRM tool, which is marketing resource management, these reporting helps you to understand what is the content which is not being used, what is the stale content, and things like that. And finally, you have a Sitecore Connect module for the content management platform. So you have a Sitecore DAM connector, but you also have a Sitecore CMP connector, which connects and synchronizes content. So basically, end all be all, like what is new? I feel that the connectors are the new thing. The connectors allowing the data between Content Hub and Sitecore, between Content Hub and Salesforce is the biggest announcement we have seen for Content Hub 3.3. So that's our first takeaway. What is our next takeaway? The next takeaway is obviously Sitecore 9.3. So Sitecore's next version is 9.3 and it is going to be released, I think, December, right before Christmas 2019. If you are an MVP, you might already have seen the preview of this 9.3. But along with talking about a lot of other features, I'm going to really talk about some interesting features. So the next feature is next gen editing environment, which is known as Horizon. So what is Horizon? As a developer, you may know Content Editor. If you are a really old Sitecore developer, that's all you had. Then there was an editing tool which is known as inline page editing tool called Page Editor, and which has now evolved into Experience Editor. So today, if you speak, in order to edit content in Sitecore, you have two options. One, Content Editor. Two, Experience Editor. Horizon is the third one. Now you may ask, why there is a need for a third editor? So let's talk about it. What Horizon really does is gives you a variety of options. So let's say that the initial release will have three different options. Editing, obviously, that's what Content Editor does and Page Editor does, so nothing new there. But the two important things is Simulator and Insights. Now, Simulator is really, really important because it really helps you to simulate visitor experience. For example, I'll tell you, a simulator has the capability of load the home page for an India visitor. So, the simulator can simulate conditions where you can see your personalization in actions for the entire page. Okay, show me the page if a visitor is categorized as a football player. Say if you have a personalization and personas enabled, simulator can simulate those experiences for you. Not only that, simulator can also do device simulation. Hey, how does my website looks in iPad, iPhone, tablet, desktop, a Mac? So a simulator really gives those out of the box features. And then finally, Insights, which tells you is if you are doing personalization on a component, how well that personalization is doing. So I really feel that Horizon will offer a lot of interesting things. So this is a sample screenshot of how Horizon would look. So you can see that this is, on the left hand side, you will see a flavor of Content Editor. You will see like a tree, you can navigate and you can traverse the folder. So which is like a little bit of Content Editor, because Experience Editor does not have like a left hand navigation. On the right hand side, extreme right hand side, you can see that you have a little bit of formatting tools, you have a little bit more details about content ID group, and then the centerpiece is really you have the editing interface, and then you have this device simulator between desktop, mobile. So just imagine this Horizon is going to bring best of Content Editor and best of Experience Editor into one different tool. So I think that is really, really exciting. I have used it firsthand, and I'm really telling you, I think this is a really exciting, a lightweight. If you are a developer or a marketer, have experienced slow response time on Experience Editor, say, oh my God, it's taking 20 seconds, it's taking 25 seconds to load. I think Horizon is going to change that perspective. It has consistently delivered under 5 seconds of load times, depending upon your system, of course, but I feel that Horizon is going to provide that much needed performance gain. This is another example of simulation. Here you can see that I am seeing the same page in an iPad resolution or a tablet resolution. So that's simulation in action for you. This is again simulation from a mobile standpoint. So again, this really shows us that simulation can work. This is known as insights. So, for example, on the home page, it will tell me how many visitors visited my page, how is my conversion rate, and some of the other details. So really, when you create a page, instantly you can see how that is performing. So I feel that is also very, very interesting, and I think provides you a little bit more richer experience. So a little bit of geek details. Horizon is an add-on module, which means that it is installed on top of Sitecore Experience Platform as a host. It does not require separate licensing. So ideally, page editor, experience editor, or content editor are installed by default, but this is a separate module as a host, which means that you will see a separate IIS site, and it is both supported in on-premises and PaaS deployment. So I feel that when we talk about Horizon, it is not out of the box. It's an add-on module. You have to install it. It's kind of a separate site. It's based on the latest version of JavaScript. So I really feel that one thing we need to understand that this is an additional installation. And I will tell you the intent of this one, but really Horizon is an independent editor which can work with any type of content. Sitecore is just one pluggable content repository, but it just works on its standalone. Next is Sitecore 9.3. What we are giving is with 9.3, there is a new feature called Sitecore Install Assistant. You may have listened about installing Sitecore using SIF, which is known as Sitecore Installation Framework, which really took away the graphical user interface way of installing Sitecore. Now, for a developer, this is good news because for development environments or single XP single environments, now you have something called a GUI, which is a graphical user interface based installation. So you get SIA with Sitecore 9.3, and it does a lot of these things automatically using graphical user interface. So no more PowerShell, no more SIF. If you're comfortable with that, SIF is still supported. That's great. You can use it. But if you are a novice developer and you feel that I really need an easy way to install, Sitecore Install Assistant is your answer. Some of the interesting features in that is you can install affiliated services like Solar instantly via SIA, which means that you don't need to install Solar on the site. It's already baked in. It will install or download the files and install. It's really, really easy. I have personally felt that SIA has tremendously simplified the installation of Sitecore. So if you have a developer machine with the prerequisite install, all it would take is 30 minutes to get 9.3 up and running. So really, really important piece to note. Optional modules like SXA, rewrite modules, or any other external third-party modules which are supported by Sitecore are selected as optional modules, which means that you don't even have to now worry about installing them separately. So those are also getting installed via SIA. Some of the SIF improvements were really, really made this year, and while I have not listed everything, I want to list a few things. Here is a skip database installation has been introduced, which means that it allows you to skip the entire database installation while using the SIP scripts, which is really important for a developer. I think customers now can install DAC packs and use XDB deployment tool, which is really helpful if you are trying to install database by yourself on a separate server and things like that. Obviously, you can change now the site physical route. So these improvements are really requested by customers, and now we are providing it. But the biggest one is, as I said, now the SIF parameter, skip database installation, and site physical route are the two important parameters which will help help our installation tremendously. Number 4, Sitecore this year, last year if you were looking at it, Sitecore announced Cortex, right? Cortex is the machine learning capability in Sitecore. Now this year Sitecore announced AI. Now a lot of people ask me like, okay, so last year Cortex, is Cortex AI or is AI Cortex? No, they both are separate. They both have its own purposes. They both allow for machine learning capabilities in Sitecore, but I personally would feel that they both are different in its own. So let's talk about AI. Like, okay, what is AI? So I think one word, if I want to classify, like Sitecore AI with its initial release is going to bring in auto personalization. So as a developer, explain me what is an auto personalization. Auto personalization is pretty simple. You go to your experience editor, you open up a component. Today, to personalize, what you do is add rule, change the data source of the component, and create personalization. So you may add 3 rules, 4 rules, 5 rules, right, as a marketer, and then that's how you personalize. What auto personalization will do is there will be a button there and which says that auto personalize, and that's it. It will automatically personalize content based on the contextual data, which means that it will segment the user automatically, it will identify the user automatically, and it will do auto personalization, which means you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is, as I said, write your content, have variation of data sources, and that's about it. So Sitecore AI really is making strides on that end to ensure that auto personalization kicks in. So there are something we need to understand for AI to work. The first and foremost is it has to be above Sitecore Experience 9.0 and above in cloud, which means on-premises environment still will not have the ability to use Sitecore AI. So that's one other impetus for us to move on to cloud. It will only work for sites which have greater than 12 million visitors, and this is due to the data analysis requirement, which means that if there is not enough data to predict the outcomes, it becomes difficult. So it is recommended for sites which has about 1 million visitors per month or 12 million visitors per year. Before auto personalization kicks in, you at least need to collect 3 months of visitor data, which is contacts and interactions and goals. That's what you need to collect. And then this is a full-blown SaaS service launching in December 2019. In order for you to use Sitecore AI, you have to do nothing. All you have to do is pay money. Because it's software as a service and it's launching December 2019, and it's a subscription-based service, which means you connect to Sitecore AI related services in Azure Cloud. Behind the scenes, I could tell you it's using Azure ML, which is Azure Machine Learning as a background, and tightly knit with Microsoft Cognitive AI. So those are the information. So some of the questions I got was, okay, then what is Cortex? So let's talk about it. Make sure that we know that they are different. So Cortex will continue to remain the core Sitecore platform. So the difference is Cortex allow you to use your own machine learning algorithms, your own machine learning tools, whereas AI is really going to use Sitecore's AI related. So Cortex is for organization which wants to leverage a lot of the custom algorithms and the custom machine learning, and for organization which don't have a lot of capability but still want to use AI, they can subscribe to the Sitecore AI. So it's simple. You have a lot of in-house talent who can work on machine learning, try Cortex because that will offer you more relevant experiences. If you don't have but you have enough content and data, then try out Sitecore AI. You can use still rules, which means that half of your components can be auto-personalized, half of your components can use your rules engine, so you can mix and match. That's really good. There are some prerequisites. For example, you need to set up engagement value, goals, and strategy for your site before auto-personalization can give you any benefit. There is no need of profiles, persona, pattern card. All of that goes away. It's a huge news for marketers if you have ever done that. So right now, basically your classification of user persona is almost based on automated classification of content. So basically based on your interaction data, AI will dynamically identify user segments. Hey, this user may belong to a age category of 20 to 25. Hey, this user may belong to age category of 50 to 90. And all of these information now AI have capabilities to identify it. So I think it's really huge. As with anything, as a developer, I want to make sure that you are getting accustomed to machine learning tools today, learning about the insights and the outcomes and how the tool works. But auto personalization is a great benefit for existing clientele, which is on cloud, coming December 2019. Not only that, I feel that AI reporting is also brought into Sitecore AI, where you can see that a lot of information now AI kind of brings you out of the box. For example, it will tell you like how your engagements are doing. It will tell you how is your profile of hotel guest. It will tell you a lot of interesting information. So on the left hand side, you can see that all this segmentation is automated. You don't have to do manual segmentation. So it's pretty amazing on how AI can bring. But naturally, I showed you that there are some prerequisites, right? It has to be of certain count and things like that. So I think AI reporting has really a lot of exciting things to offer. Number 5. So in my first 4 takeaways, I mentioned about Content Hub, which is a full SaaS-based solution. I mentioned Sitecore AI, which is again a SaaS-based solution. I mentioned Horizon. Horizon is not SaaS-based. From you look at it, it's not baked onto the original Sitecore. It's a Sitecore host, which means it's a .NET Core application built on the site. So as a developer, if you are picking up themes, you really would understand that the future of Sitecore or in fact, the future of evolving digital experience management solution is software as a service. Without software as a service, Sitecore becomes extremely interesting because deployment times can vary. Setting up a production environment can take weeks. If you want to go to market within 4 weeks with a new site, it becomes extremely challenging without the support of a large team. So in order to solve that, Sitecore came up with its strategy for software as a service, which means that as a developer, you may understand, like, okay, how is Sitecore going to do that? Like, how will I just get a URL and I can just log into Sitecore content editor? Like, how will I deploy? As a developer, how things will change? There are a lot of questions in our minds. I want to make sure that Sitecore SaaS is upcoming, but I feel that there is a lot more to be done in this area. So let's take a look at it. Like, what is SaaS? So first and foremost, I think Sitecore SaaS would have to be built up ground up. The Sitecore kernel we have today, I don't think it is going to be viable to introduce it to as a SaaS platform, because the amount of change we require, the amount of development we require out of the box is immense. So I would say that Sitecore has to build something from ground up. So that's first point. So it's not evolving the current platform, but it's developing an entirely new platform. The initial release is going to be focused on CMS functionality only, which is a very, very important point, which means that experience platform capabilities, personalization, AI, all of that has to follow. So we are talking about an initial release in summer 2020, which is going to be focused on lower mid-market customers, people who need brochure-weight sites, people who need small sites. It's not like a full-blown site. So from a SaaS offering, I would like to say that it is going to just focus on the CMS capabilities. But it is going to be a landmark move, because just imagine as a developer, you just get all of your environments ready to go, and as a developer, all you go and quickly configure a few things, and then there you go, it's ready to go and users can use and launch sites. So providing that extreme capability is going to be interesting. So behind the scenes, if I want to tell you something, what I understood is Content Hub with its DAM and content marketing platform capabilities now has the ability on a SaaS platform to have content and images. So that's one problem is solved. AI is going to do the auto personalization on a SaaS platform, right? Now with Sitecore SaaS, the content management is solved. So at some point, Sitecore Content Hub plus Sitecore SaaS plus Sitecore AI will make sure that in all ways it's a full-blown SaaS platform. Everything is subscription as a service. So I think, it is going to simplify the way we design, develop sites. So I think that is a very, very key differentiator where the world is trending towards. Next is, and obviously I will leave some time for a question. So I know that, once we go through these things, I will quickly go through my slides, and then we can have some time for questions as well. So next is Sitecore Forms. Now we get into nitty-gritty details. If you are using Sitecore Forms, Sitecore provided a few other interesting things here. As you can see, it allows now for confirmation type of fields, like where you can match the content of the field. You have file upload capabilities out of the box now, which allows you to upload files. You can choose some details like how many files and what is the max size of a particular file, what are the extensions and things like that. So it's pretty much needed functionality. Now I think the bot detection is really amazing. On the right hand side, you can use bot detection, which means that a bot cannot submit your form like 1,000 times or probably 1,000,000 times. So I think that's a great feature. You can publish your form directly from your forms dashboard. Small but a good feature for us to introduce. So I feel that from a forms perspective, nothing huge or major, but I think a smaller minor enhancements in 9.3 is just going to make our lives easier. This is going to be a very important topic. So all the developers on the call, I want you to listen this very, very carefully. Sitecore is thinking of a new headless developer experience. What is developer experience? Like today, you have Visual Studio Solution, you have Sitecore. So you go into Sitecore Content Editor, you open up templates, and then you create your data structures, right? Name, single line text, bio, photo, image. You set up your data templates, you go into Sitecore, create a layout, create a rendering, go back to your Visual Studio, you create controller rendering, you recreate view rendering, and then you connect them. You may use TDS or you may use Unicorn to do some item synchronization. Now, what I'm about to say is interesting. Imagine a world where you are not touching Sitecore content editor. You're not even logging into Sitecore at all as a developer. You are just focusing on building everything either in Visual Studio Code for front-end developers with CLI or Visual Studio only. So imagine like no Sitecore at all. So in the evolving market, when Sitecore is emphasizing software as a service, the developer experience also has to change. So in this, I am explaining you the new headless developer experience. So let's talk it from a different angles and figure out what are we really talking about it. First and foremost, I want you to focus on the lower left bottom of development. As a developer, you would use either Sitecore TDS or CLI to describe your templates as JSON files. So whenever you create templates, right now you go to Sitecore template manager and then you click and you do inheritance and base template and all of that stuff. You will be now writing JSON to do that, using either the command line interface or the TDS tool to do that. So basically in your data structures, you will have all of your templates as your JSON structure. And you will have all of your renderings and all of that as your pretty much standard rendering format. You can use any other templating engine to templatize that. You can use Scriban or you can use Nunchucks, and then what's really going to happen is your dynamic data is going to be derived from some form of a custom data model using either something like, if you're using JSS, something like layout service. So the whole idea of you going into Sitecore content editor and changing has to go away. I think that is a very, very important differentiation. And then any customer extensions are going to be used as an event-based mechanism where you have alerting and subscription mechanism. That's how your customer extensions are going to be installed. And then, as I said, editing, you can imagine a world where editing is only possible using Horizon. Content Editor Experience Editor in a true SaaS platform may or may not exist. So when I showed you Horizon, I really showed you that Horizon is best of both the worlds, best of Sitecore Editor, Content Editor, and best of Experience Editor. So you can imagine a world there is only Horizon and nothing else. So in the world of evolvement, what do you really need to embrace? I would say you really need to embrace .NET Core. I think that is one thing I would recommend you to embrace as a developer. MVC is not going anywhere. Traditional forms of development is not going anywhere. It is going to be there for about a year or two. But I can tell you for sure that today, as we speak in November 2019, and I am on air and on record, I'm telling you that this type of developer experience will start to evolve within a year. Within 365 days of our talking, I think applications being developed in .NET Core are going to be on the horizon. This is really inspired from the JSS experience as well, but I feel that front-end technologies are going to take a front-end seat, which means that knowing JavaScript is going to be very critical for you guys. All of the C# developers out there, JavaScript becomes imminent for you to embrace this change and move forward. So as a practice lead who I am responsible for about 120 Sitecore developers, one of my strategies for next year is going to be emphasizing people to learn front-end technologies, getting a little bit more closer to leading JavaScript frameworks such as Angular or React in particular, and also trying to embrace .NET Core. That's there for you guys. Sitecore 9.3 launch was supposed to happen during Symposium, and it was delayed for a couple of months for the support of containers. A lot of you may ask, okay, what is container? Simple. On the left-hand side, I want to quickly explain you. Today, we talk about virtual machines. What is a VM? So VM has like this core infrastructure, and which has a host OS, and then everything is own VM. So if you have a VM for CM and a VM for CD, so you have two, CM and CD. So what do you do today? In order for a CM to work, you install Sitecore on the CM server, which is probably like 700 megabytes of files and databases. You install the same 700 files of databases and file system on CD, and they are both separate VMs, right? They have their own operating system. That is the VM world today. In PaaS also, it's pretty much similar. But so what is container? Whenever someone says container, the beauty of containers is interesting. So infrastructure and host and container daemon are pretty much standardized. You can search what container is. But what I'm going to explain you is the concept of a Sitecore base image, or it could be a Docker image. Imagine between Sitecore CM and CD, if you do a base installation, 85% of the files are same, right? It's the same kernel DLL in both of them. Same Sitecore.content such DLL is in same. So between CM and CD, we are installing 700 megabytes of files here on CM. You are installing Sitecore 700 megabytes on CD, and it is just becoming heavy. So a Sitecore base image saying that everything Sitecore uses commonly, let's say 300 megabytes or 500 files are commonly used for both CM and CD. So Sitecore is going to have a base image which have all of those files. A CM image will have all the files for the CM image, and the CD image will have all the files for CD image. So now as a developer, all you are deploying is your DLLs, which are going to be 3 DLLs, and your config files, maybe 5 or 6 custom app config files, and any other web config changes. That is all your deployment package is. So when you do deployment here, it is heavy. It can install up to what? 200 megabytes worth of files, because you're doing a full-blown installation. Here, all you're deploying is your own custom DLLs, which means the deployment becomes lightweight. A lot of the compute, a lot of the Sitecore files are not changeable, which means that you cannot modify anything which Sitecore gives you. Sitecore manages these images, which means that you can scale Sitecore CD image, you can scale at a rapid pace by just deploying some small app code. So today, if your deployment is 200 megabytes, your future deployment is 20 megabytes, which means a reduction of almost 90%. Containers are really going to help us doing great things. So if you ask, like, okay, why do I need to use containers? Faster development cycle. It uses ASP.NET Core or JavaScript. Standardized tooling and DevOps. You can work from Visual Studio Code. You can output content to multiple channels, easier, more frequent website updates, and get to market faster. So I really feel containers are really going to be instrumental for the next year. So along with the entire SaaS strategy, containers are going to be important for us to understand and take it forward. So I really feel that containers will provide us that much needed benefits. Again, third bullet point, quicker spin up apps. What if I said Sitecore is going to be up and running within 30 seconds? So when I say 30 seconds, which means that from a deployment, when the deployment completes and then you have a full-blown horizon working, that is within 30 seconds. So I would imagine that that is going to really help us out too. And obviously less code to transfer, migrate or upload workloads. So it is really going to be important that all you have to do is migrate a little bit of code and then you are up and running. Sitecore 9.3 have container support. All of you developers, during this Christmas, spend some time, install Sitecore on a container on your local laptop. Learning containers is going to be important, my friend. I really feel that that is one thing as all developers we need to embrace. So before walking into 2020, we should know everything. What is Azure Kubernetes services, or what is AWS Kubernetes, or what is Docker, or what is container. All of these terms should be friendly to you. You should understand that. So as a developer, please keep my thought in mind. Last couple of them, I will quickly go over some JSS and SXA improvements. Obviously, JSS 9.3 now can have a separate editing node server, which means that you can work on Mac. That's the biggest thing. So if you are working on a JSS site, you're a front-end developer, now you can work on a Mac. You don't need to, basically it's called a disconnected mode. You don't need to be connected to a Sitecore instance, and it's a separate machine where is your editing node. So I think this brings in the much needed relief to a lot of front-end developers. SXA improvements, I think the biggest thing is, NVelocity has been discontinued. So we are introducing Scriban in 9.3, which is a templating engine. So if you can search for Scriban, you will understand what is this. So I really feel that that is going to be interesting and helpful to use as a interesting language called Scriban for templating. Almost all templating languages are similar for the most part. Like I use nunchucks on a regular basis. I think Scriban is a very close resemblance of that, but it really has a good flow control and error handling. And a few other interesting things like Creative Exchange now optimizes the front-end works. So, SXA is continuing to be improvised in each and every aspect of it. With that being said, I think my 10 slides are ended. As I promised you that I would leave some 10 minutes for you for questions. So, Chennai, Vanakkam, and your time for questions. Come on, guys, at least one question.
So
you can ask me if I like idli or not.
This is Kadi. You have said that on 9.3 there will be a lot of changes in the Sitecore 3. Like it will not be like a 9.1 or 2, right? So which means the organizations which is using 9.2, they have to change entirely for 9.3. They cannot just upgrade to 9.3 directly.
No, I think one thing is interesting that the developer experience which I'm talking about, this is really not for 9.3. It is
Hmm.
coming in future.
Okay.
What I with 9.3, everything is still going to be the same, but you will see a lot of extra features. So, for example, in 9.3, one of the things you will see is, I'm just going to go back. I feel that 9.3, I think one of the major changes is horizon. So this is what you're going to see. So from a tree structure standpoint, you have a different way to view the tree. Like this is one other way, but your content editor and experience editor are still going to work the same way. 9.3 does bring a lot of additional modules, but the base site was still the same. In future, when SaaS comes in summer 2020, a little bit of changes can be expected in the newer version. So at this point, 9.3, I don't think you need to change anything. An in-place upgrade from 9.2 to 9.3 is possible, but with a lot of new features. So Horizon is going to be just an add-on module to that.
Okay. So along with Horizon, what are the other modules that will be in 9.3?
AI is going to be an interesting module. For auto personalization, I think there are going to be Content Hub support. So there are modules like Sitecore Connect for Content Hub DAM and CMPPK capabilities are going to be new. I feel that SXA and JSS will have additional packages like support for Scriban for SXA, and for JSS, I feel that having a disconnected mode on integrated editing server are going to be new. So I think those are the new modules which are coming up.
Okay. Thank you.
Sital, you said we can have a connect content hub into CMS, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes if you want to use this content hub with the content repository, so is also have a connector for other system, like if you want to expose the data to Power BI, or we can get the data from other e-commerce system or any SAP system. So those connectors also available now in content hub, or only they are targeting for CMS site code.
No, I think what Content Hub is doing is the architecture of Content Hub. On the left hand side, as you said, I think there are a lot of systems like ERP, PLM systems, and obviously PIM systems. Sitecore Content Hub will use is on Azure, and it's going to use Azure Service Bus, and using subscription and triggers like event-based triggers. It has a lot of injection capabilities of getting content into Sitecore Content Hub. End of the day, Sitecore Content Hub just takes in the data in form of an API call or a JSON data. So although specifically they have not published connectors, connector is only for data going out, not data coming in. So that is important differentiation. For data coming in, Content Hub has a lot of interesting capabilities, but for data going out, it will establish connectors, because what Sitecore Content Hub will do is give data to the third party like CMS or Salesforce in the way they want it. Like CRM is Salesforce, like e-commerce is going to be Sitecore Commerce, or CMS is going to be Sitecore Experience Platform. So I want to say that using Azure Service Bus, already they have various different ways of ingesting data, using through an API endpoint, using through some quickly written Azure apps or Azure functions. You can get the data in. So to your answer, the answer is yes, it is available out of the box today.
Okay.
I want to hear from the Chennai community. If anyone has questions, you can ask any questions. I'll be willing to answer.
Sure, Sheetal. Thanks. So we always will reach out to you if you have any questions. Guys, any other questions? I think during the demo itself, during the presentation walkthrough, you asked questions by yourself and you answered. So most of us are clear.
Yeah, no, I really hope that, when we talk about symposium highlights, a lot of information is presented, but it is important to present my point of view. So I, in this presentation, really try to, from my standpoint, I try to answer the top 10 takeaways. I may have gone faster at the tail end to save time, but again, hopefully you guys will have this recording. Hopefully, I am making sure that, you all have opportunity to write my email address. My email address is sjain@horizontal.com. And you guys can email me for any questions, feedback, or even, as a matter of fact, I am a Sitecore enthusiast and I'm often traveling to India. It is surprising that I have grown up in the streets of Saukarpet and Tinagar, a lot. So Chennai is closer to me. So you guys, reach out and hopefully we can have a good conversation about Sitecore.
Oh, is it great to hear? So generally, like today, honestly saying, we feel like we are in Orlando and we are in the symposium. We hear a lot of things directly, like that we felt. So you really give the fully heads up of what actually they given you. So it was a great session. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nizaruddin, and all of you guys, Chennai. Thank you very much, and you guys have a great evening. Happy weekend. My weekend hasn't started yet, so for you guys, it's already weekend. That's great. All right. So if there is nothing, then I can stop sharing, and then over to you guys.
Vinodri, you
So,
want to close this?
yes, so it's great to hear from you about the symposium highlight, Sheetal. Thanks for such an informative session. It was an wonderful opportunity to understand the upcoming updates. Thanks for the participants also.
Awesome. Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.